is the Monday Morning Motivator with Magooch.
Good morning to the Monday Morning Motivator. I'm your host, Jessica Magoch, today and always, and I have a very special guest, Mr. Vincent Roazzi. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You didn't have to go very far. We're at his condo in Clearwater Beach, and you can see the ocean behind us. So we are doing this live off the cuff. This was actually last minute that I decided to bring him on the meeting. So he prepped in 5 minutes, but when you know this stuff, it comes naturally. And also, we don't have all the tech that we would love to have. So please excuse any audio quality. If a helicopter goes by, we might have to take a quick second to let that go. But I'm sure you guys don't mind, if that's okay, to have your permission with some distractions. But if you focus, you'll get what you need to get out of this meeting today. And that is actually our topic for today. So,
Voila.
Teaser. So again, if you don't know me, I'm Jess Magoch. I'm a second generation, next gen sales trainer and leader. And I have with me today my coach, Vincent Roazzi. We all need a coach, right? So Vincent trained multiple companies with 1,000+ sales teams, all commission only, all full-time sales representatives, and brought at least one of those to IPO, right? And rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. It's actually quite interesting that they chose the director of sales to ring the bell. It shows how much the company valued their effort to do that. So through his, he never trained publicly though. So he was only hired internally into these organizations as corporate turnaround specialist. How do you turn a company around? Increase their sales. It's always a good place to start. Say sales.
Increased revenue accomplishes everything.
Sales solves everything. So, but what he did develop was a book called The Spirituality of Success, and did release that to the public. And that was his experience of what it took to make that change to experiencing success that had nothing to do with sales techniques or the traditional, hard work that you see out, constantly being pushed on you. But really what gets you to that next level, that uber successful level. So that's in The Spirituality of Success, Getting Rich with Integrity. You can get on Amazon and all those lovely places. But what he never released was his sales methodology, which is the 8 steps to closing the sale. So he kind of passed that torch on to me to do that, and I do that combined. So I teach the 8 steps to closing the sale and the spirituality of success in the sales launch code, which is my 6-week program from startup to conversion machine. You can learn more about that by opting into the free training under this video. Okay. Always selling, right? So, but we all need a coach. He's my coach, and I talk to him nearly every day, if not every other day, maybe multiple times a day, before I get on a call, after I get on a call, even these years. So, okay, as we do every meeting, we're going to take a moment to set intentions. This is how we usually run our Monday manager meetings. So if you are a sales leader or manager, please steal these Monday morning meeting formats for your team. Take what I've learned from him about coaching and leading and training sales teams, and apply it to your own team. So first thing we do is set intentions. Just take a second to remind yourself why the heck you're doing this in the first place. What are your big goals? And if your big goal is a money goal, that's fine, but don't stop there. What do you want to do with that money? What's it going to mean to you and to your family, to your community? What are you going to do with it that's going to make a difference for you and for the world. So take a moment to think about why you started this business, why you started selling in the first place. Because if you have a big enough why, then anything we try to share with you about change, you're more likely to adopt if you have a really big reward on the other side, right? If your reward is just paying your bills at the end of the week or the end of the month, not so motivating.
They already have a word for that. It's called job.
J-O-B, right? I say sales is way too hard of a job if you're just in it to pay your bills, right? There's a lot to learn and a lot of rejection and all that. So what's your big why for you and your family and for whatever causes that you want to contribute to? Okay, so now that we have that why, we can talk about how to make that why happen. And as always, we must take accountability with metrics. So real quick, if you're not sure what any of these terms are, jump to meeting 1 where I explain them in detail. What were your conversions this week? What are your numbers? Did you track your numbers? If yes, congratulations, you took the first step. 2, if you didn't track your numbers and you knew you were supposed to track your numbers, why didn't you track your numbers? Really important question to ask yourself. If you've given a step, someone says, here's one thing that could help you if you start doing it right now, and then you choose not to do it, you really need to ask yourself why. You're tripping yourself up, right?
Yep.
And so track your what were your conversions, what were your numbers, what was your activity, and what were the results. So basically your outbound sales activity, your lead generation, your cold calls, your emails, your LinkedIn, how many of those converted into qualified leads, how many of those passed through to the discovery phase and into a meeting, and then how many of those closed, and how many referrals did you get off of those. So we're tracking all of those numbers and then tracking the conversion rates from one to another. So then you'd have to ask yourself, okay, here's where you are. Where do you want to be next week? Write it down now. What do you want to do differently this week to get you where you want to be? Because if you keep doing the same thing, you're just going to stay in the same spot like a hamster wheel. So I want to ask you what, I learned metrics from you, obviously. So what's your spin on metrics? Why is it so important to track your numbers?
Well, when you're doing the tracking, what you're really doing is measuring your activities. And you've probably heard the saying before, but what you measure, you can improve. And that's why we're all here. We're all here to try and improve our sales ability. And one step is, actually this step is very simple because it's something you can actually accomplish, without having a lot of experience. So if you track / measure what you're doing, then you can improve what you're doing. And of course, if you're improving what you're doing, then you wind up with more sales in the end. And that's the objective. So what you measure, you can improve. And that's why we're here.
Cool. Yeah, I always describe it as if your sales is a funnel, you need to know where the leak is. You're going to fix it. If you're not tracking your numbers, you might think that your problem is closing, but it's really maybe qualifying, right? Or you think your problem is qualifying or presenting, but it's really getting the right people in the funnel in the first place.
Yeah, I used to think what I accomplished in a day was worthwhile, but the reality was that what I thought I accomplished, and then when I started quantifying it, what I actually accomplished were two different things. I guess Jessica spoke to you at some point or another about the importance of doing 200 phone calls a week to try and 200 a day. But, sometimes you only have one day to do it. To try and gain some suspects that you want to turn into prospects. And I used to think that I was making that many until I actually measured it and found out that wasn't even halfway there. you know, so that's one of the things you wind up actually finding out if what you think you're accomplishing is what you're actually accomplishing, and then you know how. Then you can adjust what you're doing to actually accomplish the goal of 200 phone calls in a day. And a lot of people say 200, that's impossible.
Well, it's actually half day's work if you're focusing.
Yeah.
No, really, it's 4 hours. No, that's a great point. Is you're always going to think that you did more than you did because you worked hard all day. You're really tired at the end of the day, so you must have done a lot of work. But and I hear objection all the time is how can I possibly get 200 calls done in a day when I need to take 10 minutes to research each person before I call them or even email them, and I need to do all this work, Jessica. You're telling me I need to personalize everything, so I need to do all this work before I get an email out or a call out, right? And so just in that one scenario, you really have to look at your business and say, what am I doing that someone else can do? So if I'm spending 5-10 minutes researching someone before I call them, one, what tools are available to make that more efficient? And two, is this something someone else can do? Because if you're going to do 200 calls in 4 hours, you need to have boom, 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 go down a spreadsheet or a list and make one call and not hang up in between. Don't put your phone down in between. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. In order to do that, you need to prep first so that you can totally focus on that one thing of making calls, and then you'll get it done. And if that means you need to have someone help you do it, or if that's something you got to do on the weekend when you can't call your customers, then you do that stuff on the weekend so that you can call them during prime hours, which I divulge a little bit more in my course about what are those prime hours to get in touch with people. So here now I want to transition into our topic on the more the conceptual spirituality side of things, the success side of our Monday meetings. And no matter who you are, even if you're not in sales or sales leadership or starting a business or anything like that, these are going to help you in any area of your life. So all these concepts that we talk about, they will help you improve any part of your life that you want to improve. So don't just think of them as how they're going to help your business, but also how you can apply them in other areas of your life. So we talked about focus just now and how do you get 200 calls a day done, right? We talked about how focus is necessary, and you probably heard that before, right? Just focus. But we're going to take you deeper than anyone's ever taken you into why focus is important. And not only why it's important, but how it works. Because I know you want proof. And so we're going to give you the science behind why focusing on something helps you get it done. And then we'll give you a challenge to go forward with your week with what you've learned. So there's a myth out there that I'd like to squash. And I'm as a woman, I think I could squash it even better, and I'll tell you why. There's a myth that it's possible to multitask, or multitasking is a thing, right? Or that it's something that's valued. If you can do 10 things at once, wow, you must be getting a lot of stuff done in a day. And as a woman, I feel like I can debunk this because there's also the thing going around that women are better at multitasking than men. Well, maybe that's a little true because of the way our brains are. The hypothalamus is stronger in women, which helps connect the two sides of the brain. So there are ways that our brain works differently as men and women. But this idea of doing two things at the same time, I think is really hurting people in getting stuff done for their business. So people ask me all the time, if you know me personally, they're always like, Jessica, I don't know how you get all these things done that you do. You're a sales trainer, you're a coach, you have a family, you have a band, you're a martial artist, you're like, they're like, I don't understand. They want to see my calendar, how I get this stuff done. But the answer is focus. So, focus is when you do one thing at a time, and ideally you complete that one thing at a time. And what happens when you multitask is, like, let's say you're making 200 calls, but then a text comes in from your mom, and you gotta answer that text from your mom because you don't want to hear it from her later. So you go to answer that text, and then you come back to your two, or maybe the phone's ringing and you're texting, right? So did you waste any time? Maybe you might say no. But what happens in your brain when you move from one task to another, it's like a bento box, right? You have these different compartments in your brain, different things are happening. So imagine that one task is happening in one part, and then you switch. Your brain has to, it needs to access different, talents and mechanics and all of that to get a different task accomplished. And then you're trying to move back to the other task. So that time that it takes to switch from one thing to another, it takes energy, so you're exhausted if you're doing that, and it takes actual time for your brain to get back to the task that it was doing. So this idea of trying to multitask to get things done is not the answer to getting more things done. But I would like to ask you, why do successful people get more done if it's not multitask? And if it's not hard work? I mean, the successful people I see, they don't look like they're working very hard. Like, they're enjoying life more than working. So why do you feel, or why, what does quantum physics tell us about why successful get people more done in the same amount of time that everyone?
Well, I think everybody's heard of the special theory of relativity by Einstein. And it talks about how if you have twin siblings and one flies off into space on a space shuttle and the other one stays on Earth, because of the speed of the space shuttle as it approaches the speed of light, it actually slows time down because time is elastic. It's not rigid. And at the speed of light, according to the special theory of relativity, time actually stops. So as you approach that speed of light, time slows until it eventually stops. And so what they say is that when that twin returns to Earth, that twin will have aged less in years than the twin that stayed on Earth. So the twin that stayed on, even though they started off at the same age, when that twin that returns in the spaceship gets back on Earth, they will be actually younger than the one that stayed on Earth.
So this is interesting because you have twin daughters.
Yes.
And so they should know, Zane and Victoria. If you forget the Botox, forget the plastic surgery, just get in a spaceship, approach the speed of light, is what you're saying. Because our time is relative to the speed of light,
yes.
Right? So time is relative, and it's relative to the speed of light. So if you want time to slow down, you get closer to the speed of light. Now, of course, that's really fast, right? But even if you got halfway,
186,000 miles a second.
it's really fast, yeah. But if you were even just going anywhere closer to that than we are, means that you're experiencing time at a slower pace.
Correct.
Which means, like, the test that they actually did with twins was that one aged slower than the other. So this is the answer to the fountain of youth people. I'm giving you more than you asked for. Okay. So now you said in order to, if you want to slow down time, you have to approach the speed of light. So are you telling me that successful people go on a rocket ship every day and come back? I don't know.
Well, in a fashion, how that pertains to us in the field of study of success in sales and life is that what's important to know is that, and this has also been scientifically proven, that a thought, and I also believe in emotion, actually becomes a molecule in the body once you have it. Once you have that thought, it becomes a molecule in your body. Once you feel that emotion, it becomes a molecule in your body. Now, that molecule has mass, which is what a spaceship has and a person that goes into a spaceship. And if you could speed up that molecule more towards the speed of light, then for that molecule, it will experience a slowing of time. And there's a perfect way to do that without having to jump in a spaceship or rocket ship. That's focus. By focusing, you can actually slow down time by increasing the speed of the molecule, because the molecule has mass, and mass can be projected. In other words, it can move. And by focusing, you'll be able to move that molecule faster, and anything that moves faster than it previously was is experiencing time at a lower elapsed rate. Does that answer your question?
Anything that moves faster than it was experiencing time
At a slower
slower.
Right.
Okay. So when you have a thought or feel something, it actually takes some physical form, although
Actually becomes a molecule.
it becomes a molecule, but not necessarily something we can currently measure with our scientific instruments, or
no, yeah.
is it something that
they know it definitely? Well, a molecule you can see with a microscope.
One. Okay, so your thoughts and your emotions actually become a piece of. This is really interesting because when you think about like and how diseases grow in your body and the thought-body connection to how things grow, that's what I immediately thought of.
If you could speed up a cancer molecule, then you could slow its growth.
Theoretically, we don't want to.
I mean, that's
we're not going
area.
into this medical field here. We're not doctors, but we're going to try to stick to the sales side. So
that's hard enough.
So, see, people take sales for granted, right? Like it's just, you don't need a degree to do it, which you don't. You don't need to have any certification in most cases. Maybe the product to sell something. You don't need a special certification or a stamp of approval. So, being that it's usually an easy career to enter into, gives it maybe a less valuable value in our current business world. And yet, every single company needs salespeople. They know they need salespeople, and they know they need salespeople to survive, and they're always hiring salespeople. But sales in general has bad rep, and yet we see. And a lot of people fail at sales, right? So
very high turnover.
Especially it has a high turnover, and it has a bad rep because everyone knows someone who tried that sales thing once and didn't do so well. And it's not because the first level is they're not getting the training that they need. Okay. But let's say you did get the training you need, then we're not getting this next level of success training that you need in order to really apply, this into the hardest job in a company is selling. So we're taking a principle like this, and that's why it's so special for us to share this in the realm of sales and how to use it to be successful in sales. Sales could be the highest paid profession or the lowest
Or
paying
the
job.
lowest paid job.
So here we've learned that in order to speed up, when you approach the speed of light, when anything approaches the speed of light, time slows down because time is relative to the speed of light. At least how we measure it here on Earth.
And any approach towards that speed of light, any improvement towards the speed of light,
Right.
will relatively slow time down in proportion.
And when you have a thought or emotion, it actually takes form in a molecule in your body.
Yes, it has mass.
Do we know what it was before it was that molecule? Like, was it one kind of molecule that changed into another kind of molecule? Or
No, it actually creates a molecule.
creates?
The brain creates a molecule with
Okay.
the thought or the emotion.
Okay. So then these emotions and thought molecules can be spun faster.
Project. Yeah, move fast.
Into something closer to the speed of light.
Any improvement in the speed.
We're not saying it's going 86,000 miles. Otherwise,
Not
you'd be
inside your
frozen
body.
in time. Although, if you do dive into some meditative, techniques and learn about, some of the yoga principles, they would say that it is possible to freeze time,
Right.
even though other people can't see you freeze time because they didn't freeze it. But within that, your time is frozen. So that's next levels. We're not going to go there today.
Well, I think there are some easy examples to see how this actually works in real life. One of the things I remember one time, I was getting my teeth worked on, and I felt like I was there for hours. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. It was just, I was wondering, when the heck am I going to get out of here? And I knew, for instance, my appointment was 2:00. And then the dentist finally finished. He started taking the apron off. I looked up at the clock. It was 2:15. Only 15 minutes had passed, and I felt like it was hours. I mean, because what I was doing involuntarily was focusing so much on what he was doing that I slowed time down to where I thought I spent hours, but I was only spending 15 minutes. Now, you may have had the same experience in the dentist office, the doctor's office, whatever. But we also have a lot of examples in sports. Sports is one of the favorite places where you get examples of how people have used this principle effectively and successfully. I remember Ted Williams. Now, this was a guy who was fantastic in baseball. What he was really, really good at was hitting the ball. He had bats. I think he even had a 400 batting season, which is unheard of. But he claimed that he could see the seams on the baseball that the pitcher threw at him, so that it was easy for him to hit the ball. Now, he didn't understand the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics and all this other stuff that we're talking about. But I know that what he did was focus so much on that ball that he actually slowed it down so he could see the seams on the baseball as it traveled towards him. And so, yeah, it was real easy for him to hit it. If you've watched the movie The Legend of Bagger Vance, one of the instructions he gave to the guy he was caddying for, the golfer, was focus on the flag and the field. And when he did that, now we could see this just right on the screen. All the people disappeared, all the distraction disappeared. It was only him, the field, and the flag. And he was actually able to, of course, this was in a movie, so it may seem fake, but it's a reenactment of what actually happened, what great golfers experience. They are able, by focusing, to enter a state of conscious meditation where the crowds disappear, all the distractions disappear, and it's only them, the ball, and the flag. And they're able to accomplish better scores at the game of golf. I think there's recently been a commercial on TV. It was on actually yesterday, where Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, puts on a pair of Bose headphones, because I think it was a Bose commercial. And he's in the stadium, and people are booing him, and who's cheering him, and all these distractions that the crowds try to do. If you saw the New Orleans playoff game, you know what I'm talking about. And when he put on these headphones, the crowd, the whole stadium just disappeared. All the distractions disappeared. And that's so now we got football, baseball, golf,
Karate.
I mean, you could see the examples. There's multitude of
When Sensei's
real
punching me, time slows down, and I just see that
Exactly.
fist coming.
Right.
But I still can't get out of the way. So I think he's slowing down time faster than I am, because wherever I move, he's there.
Well, I always, my opinion was
Slowly.
what makes a great boxer was the ability, whether he's conscious of it or not, he's got the ability to focus so meaningful that he can see the other fighter's punch coming and already be preparing the counter punch before the punch ever gets there. And I think that's what makes the Muhammad Ali's and all the great fighters that we've ever known. It's not even fair. I mean, did you ever try to catch a fly? That little dopey thing with two wings? How come they beat you every time? I mean, you would think that you could outsmart this thing. But it operates in a different time frame than we do. So while we're trying to catch it, to them it's slow motion. There's no way you're going to catch it. So these are just some practical examples of what actually happens with focus and how it can help you accomplish more work in less time. Interesting stuff.
Interesting. So how do you apply this then in your everyday? Let's talk about that prospecting thing. What does it look like when you're focusing on a task done, or focusing on your customer and how that changes the dynamic, the meeting? Those are two different.
Well, I think it's pretty much common knowledge. Maybe you've heard it or not. But successful people can accomplish more work in less time than the average individual. This is like known stuff. And how do they do it? They do it through focus. Now, the good news is you're not born having good focus or bad focus. Focus is a skill. Learn how to do it. It's something that's tactile. The more repetitive you are at trying to learn it, the better you become at it. Can you focus enough to stop time altogether? Well, like Jessica said before, in the field of yoga,
The yoga student.
in meditation, yeah, they talk about stopping time. But more importantly, when you slow time down through focus, you're able to accomplish 200 phone calls in 4 hours.
What you
Whereas-
focus on expands. Did you say that?
So, so to the average person, the possibility of doing that is like, they believe it's so remote and impossible. But through improving your ability to focus, you could actually accomplish the impossible. Because it's not impossible. It's very possible. Jessica's done it. I've done it. We've trained thousands of people to do it. I've trained all my own children to do it. And whether it's in the field of sales or the field of success or just in life, if you can accomplish more in the same amount of time as another person, that puts you way ahead of the game. Even if you're just cleaning the house. What the heck?
True. When I start cleaning the house and then I open a drawer and I'm like, oh, this is disorganized. And then I start organizing every drawer. I never get that. And that's not to say you have to be focused all the time on every single thing, right? But certainly, if you're on vacation, you want to focus on being on vacation and relaxing. I'd see too many people walking the beach, doing their work when their intention was to get away from work. So focusing on that one thing, because you need time to unwind and relax. So focus on that time, relax, compartmentalize. Go from one. I had this issue this week because I was in the middle of working with a big client, and it wasn't finished before I left, and I had to do some things. And I was getting upset with myself because I really wanted to focus on vacationing and chilling out with my family and all that, and mom guilt and all that. But what I realized was, I could spend the time that I needed to get the task done. But what was really bothering me was thinking about it when I wasn't doing it. That was really what was bugging me, because I had a call coming up, and then for the 3 hours, even though the tasks were complete, to prepare for it, I was still thinking about it before and after. And so I said, Jess, shut up. You gotta shut up, because you really need to focus here on your family, or you're gonna regret it. So even if we're, that's why I'm saying all these principles like flow in and out of your life. And it's not about being focused all the time, because that's actually, I don't know, to me, it feels like time goes too slow. And sometimes I want it to be faster. and so, but it is about, what does it look like when there's a lot of things I need to get done for my business. So when they need to get done, my phone, forget about silent or do not disturb. It's in another room, because I know if I hear even just hearing the ding takes my mind off of, even if I don't check it, it takes my mind off of what's happening. Anything can go for an hour without an emergency. And so, I have kids too. So I'll allow myself at one point to check messages just in case it's not the school calling, which has happened. But that's what it looks like. It looks like putting your phone in another room, opening up, if you're working and you don't need the internet, take off the internet and just work on that one page, document that you're trying to work on, so you're not distracted by your email and your Facebook and all those other things we could be doing. There's a million. There's so many things that you could be doing to be distracted by.
Lots of distractions today. Tons of distractions.
But don't you think there always were? Is it really? There's maybe more today, but I don't know. There always had to be some distractions.
Oh, there's always been distractions. I just think that they're more compelling today. They talk to you. In the past, when I was young, I don't remember my distractions talking to me.
Right, like if you wanted the news, you had to pick up a newspaper and read it, versus it
First you had to go out and buy it.
Flashed at you all the time, right? And also everything's in sound bites today, so it's really easy. It's really easy to justify, this is only a 10 seconds going to take me away, and then I'll know, I will have gotten whatever that is, an update from someone who's important to you, or a a news article or something, whatever it is, it takes so much less time to consume, which just makes it easier to justify moving away from what you're doing. Oh, texting my mom back is only going to take a second. Yeah. And then she like follows up with 5 more messages of like totally like, Mom, try to focus.
I think people are also trained to have a shorter time frame of interest. I know. I was reading about movies. You ever notice in the old time movies they had long scenes, long drawn out. They don't have them anymore because people don't have the.
I think I told you that. What? I think I had shared.
I knew I got somewhere.
Yeah, because they were long scenes, and then if you look at like MTV.
Right, yeah.
Like anything on like something geared towards younger people, they won't stay on one shot for more than 2 seconds. It's like 1, 2, boom, 1, 2, boom, 1, 2, because that constant back and forth is what's necessary to keep the attention there.
That's the span of attention today.
So this 40 minutes already, wow. If you stayed on this long, you're way ahead of the game. So that's what it looks like. It looks like putting away everything, focusing completely, on the task at hand. It means getting everyone else on board with what you're trying to do. So, you might be a salesperson, your boss might be the person that's constantly interrupting you. Get them have them listen to this video. Get them on the same page, and have rules and guidelines. I know when I ran my team, I had 30 people coming in and everyone had an emergency. It's always, I just got off the phone, I need help with this, or my customer has this problem, and I couldn't get anything done. So I would have a sign on my door when I needed to focus and get a task done, a do not disturb basically. And I told them ahead of time what it meant. If that sign's on the door, it means I have a really important task to complete and I cannot be interrupted. And it would only be on for an hour at a time. I didn't... I drank too much last night, don't bother me all day kind of thing. But to have these boundaries and guidelines within the people that making sure your mom knows if you don't answer, you're probably completing an important task. It doesn't mean you anything bad happened to you because you're not responding right away.
Yeah, I think it's even more dramatic if you have the luxury of being able to work from home, because your family naturally thinks that if you're home, well, then you're accessible. No, I'm at work. And when I'm working, I'm not here. It's a hard concept to get across to them because obviously you are here. But in order for you to be able to focus, they have to act like you're not. So that's why people say, "Oh, I wish I'd work at home." It's not as easy as you might think. Getting people to cooperate so that you can work and accomplish something is a challenge. So that goes along with what you were saying.
Yeah, getting everyone on board, getting everyone around you on board with helping you reach your goals. Back to intention. What's that big picture? Making sure you share that with people so they know how they can help you get there. One of those things is by helping. Yes. Well, thank you for coming on today. If you want to hear the whole chapter on focus, grab the book, because there's a whole chapter called Focus, offhand, what number it is?
10. Chapter
10, page 53. Goes into depth with those things they talked about, of course, and a lot of other things. So I'll put a link to that under the video. But otherwise, check out the free training, which is the science behind why people really buy, which is cool. Some more science for you on sales psychology and buying psychology, which is under this video. And that's the way that you can learn about all the different ways that we can work together. So watch that, because it really gives a good idea of how I teach, or we teach, and how the methodology behind the sales strategies that we teach, and then it'll introduce you to ways that we can work together. So for now, have a great week. We wish you all the success in the world. We won't have you on for a while. Any passing notes that you want to
Well, if you don't,
spread?
if you're not clear about some of the topics we discussed, feel free to drop a note to Jess. Drop her a question.
I answer all of them.
Don't be ashamed. I mean, we all learn at different rates of speed, and maybe the special theory of relativity is not something that you eat for breakfast every morning. But it is important for you to know how this is actually physically occurring in your life. It's not just theory. It's an actual physical chain of events, and you can control it. Thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah. When it comes to ideas like that you can either choose to adopt or not, I always bring it back to the question of, is the way you're currently thinking about these things serving you or not serving you? If it's not serving your ultimate goals and intention, then change it. You have the ability to change any way you think about things. So if focus is something that you feel like could help you get you where you want to be, choose to adopt this concept, and there's a word, suspend disbelief, so that you can actually practice it. And once you practice it and you see results, then you'll really believe it. So that's your challenge for this week, is to take 2 hours and focus on one activity to complete. And if it's not work related, it could be personal related. Focus on your partner for 2 hours. Imagine what your relationship would be like if you could focus on the other person for 2 hours without being distracted by anything. It's amazing. What you focus on expands. So choose wisely, but do it. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
It's the Monday Morning Motivator with Magoch.